Hi, I'm Brian Mahoney, and welcome to Mahoney Movie Magic. A couple of years ago, I took a microeconomics class, and one of the things it taught was to tally the total cost of something. Oftentimes, you go to a movie and you just say, "Oh, I paid $12 for a ticket," but you can spend money for gas, a ticket, the food that you eat, and that's all for just one experience. So when you're investing this much in entertainment, it will be helpful to get a honest movie review. Newspapers have to uh, 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 survive with advertising. So if films are advertising in their newspaper, then you're not necessarily going to get an honest review from a newspaper. Unless it's a low budget film and they don't have to worry about advertising. And YouTubers now, who have over 100,000 subscribers, they get flown out to movie premieres and get invited to special movie premieres. And so now they're being bribed or brought out by movie studios. So I decided to create Mahoney Movie Magic so you can get incorruptible movie reviews and information about film. So let's get started with the 12 top films that from 2017 that you should buy a Blu-ray of if you haven't seen it already. Number 12 is The Post, directed by Steven Spielberg, uh, with Meryl Streep, starring Meryl Streep and Tom Hanks. What I like about this film was good directing by Spielberg and good acting. Now these are a great actor and a great actress, but I felt like at times they were competing against each other and hamming up a scene. If you see the film, you'll see at least three times Meryl Streep either drops something or bumps into a table or bumps into somebody else. And that was her way of portraying to us that this maybe wasn't the most competent or confident person. And after about the third or fourth time, it was getting kind of old. Tom Hanks begins the movie challenging Meryl Streep, I guess, to show he's just like all the other men, not respecting her. And then basically for the entire rest of the movie, he more or less acts as a friend as opposed to this man caught in this culture of not respecting women. But what I liked about it was that it was also a reality check on our current events, and the theater gave it a rousing applause at the end because it had a classic Spielberg ending that was reminiscent of, to me, of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Number 11, Get Out, directed by Jordan Peele, starring Daniel Kaluuya and Allison Williams. What I liked about this film was the chemistry between the leads. If you're not convinced that Allison Williams is truly into Daniel Kaluuya's character, then the twist at the end doesn't mean anything. Allison Williams, I was impressed by her convincing performance that she cared for this character of Daniel Kaluuya. And Daniel Kaluuya's character, because of his intelligence and the way he carried himself, you were able to believe, yes, she'd be attracted to this young man who seemed to be very bright and intuitive. And the second thing I liked about it was a Twilight Zone type of story. Nowadays, horror films are presented with all this gore and demonic presence, and it was nice to just see a type of horror story that was more built on story instead of gore and shock value. And then the third thing, directorial balance by Jordan Peele, dealing with what could have been a very touchy subject and social commentary. He handled it well, blending comedy, horror, and having good pacing in this film. Number 10, Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, directed by Jake Kasdan, starring Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart. Um, uh, what I liked about this film is the comedy throughout the film, the balance of screen time with Dwayne Johnson, Kevin Hart, Jack Black, and Karen Gillan. Um, and it had nonstop action. I also like the fact that I didn't feel like I was watching a remake of the original Jumanji, that it had um, an original story itself, and then the concept of multiple lives. Oftentimes, when we're watching a film, we don't have any real concern about the character because we know, hey, they're the star, they're not going to die. Well, this movie gave multiple lives. So at any point, we knew any one of the stars of this film could be taken out. And I thought it was a nice concept. And so oftentimes, uh, we're saying, when is there going to be a great video movie? Well, in reality, this is it. Number nine, The Shape of Water, directed by Guillermo del Toro, starring Sally Hawkins, Michael Shannon, Octavia Spencer. What I liked about this film was, A, I never seen Sally Hawkins before, and I literally sat there convinced that I was watching a deaf person as she performed in sign language throughout the film. I loved her chemistry with Octavia Spencer. When you see people who work together that are close, oftentimes this is how they are, looking out for each other and having concern up to a point, as you'll see in the film, especially with Octavia Spencer's husband. Um, and so, watching this, I felt like Sally Hawkins gave the performance of the year as far as acting goes. And then I like that it keeps your attention without a lot of special effects. The creature itself is reminiscent of the monster from the Black Lagoon, and I wasn't sure whether it was CGI or practical effects. If I had to guess, I'd say practical effects. But outside of that, it was the action and the story and the pacing that kept your attention. And then I thought it was an interesting spin on The Little Mermaid, where you have in The Little Mermaid a fish that wants to go on land um, to be with people, and in this film, a woman attracted to basically a large fish. Three Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri. This is my pick to win the Oscar this year for Best Picture. This picture checked off a lot of the Oscar boxes. It had great directing. It was directed by Martin McDowell, starring Frances McDormand, Woody Harrelson. Um, um, it was old school storytelling without any special effects. The characters had depth, and it had excellent acting, great story, and good pacing. And what I mean by depth is you have one of the sheriffs, and he's playing um, this what could have been caricature of a typical Southern racist police officer. But in the course of the film, he may utter the most socially acceptable statement about race. Then you have a woman, Frances McDormand's character, who is obviously not racist. Maybe her closest friend is a black female, yet she may utter the most racist statement throughout the film. So the characters had depth. Woody Harris's character, he could have just been the typical bad sheriff in town, where you got to understand his perspective of why he was ineffective in finding the murderer of Frances McDormand's daughter. So overall, this film, I think, was or is the best film of the year in relation to the Oscar. I don't think the Oscars are I don't think they choose the best films. They have a certain criteria, and until they allow all films to be considered as best picture, then I think they have a flawed system. But understanding some of their system, I would say this film relates to what they want to see as far as best film. Number seven, Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. Um, I saw this movie in the summertime, and I felt it was extremely entertaining. When I'm going to see films in the summertime, I'm not basing that film on having Oscar caliber acting. I'm looking for uh, a escapism, vacation type film. And I felt this film provided plenty of that. One, it gave us a different story. Outside of Star Wars, there has not, and maybe Star Trek, there have not been a consistent challenger as far as sci-fi. And I thought this unique story was not only a good story, but it also had great special effects. So, what I liked about this film was it gave us a new space adventure, gave us incredible special effects, and it had tons of action. Number six, Star Wars The Last Jedi, directed by Rian Johnson, starring Daisy Ridley and Mark Hamill. What I liked about this film was the stunning special effects, the pure entertainment. If you're talking about getting value for your dollar, your film dollar, and especially, with all these special effects, you're talking about buying a Blu-ray, then I would imagine this Blu-ray for this film, when it comes out, is going to be loaded. At least you hope it is. Sometimes they do multiple releases and don't give you anything on the first one to get you to buy a second one, and so they gouge you that way. But you would hope that it has a ton of behind the scenes information. So pure entertainment, good acting, especially by Mark Hamill and Daisy Ridley. Daisy Ridley commands your attention when she's on the screen. You get the impression she's giving it her all, and it was the same with Mark Hamill. He, you felt the depth of his character, even though he's publicly stated he disagreed with the direction of the character. And so the pacing was good, the space battles were good, and it gave you answers after 2 years of waiting. Now, those answers was what I had as the problem of the film, and that they were non answers, incomplete, easily changed. Whereas in the original trilogy, Luke simply asked, "Is Darth Vader my father?" And Yoda answered, "Yes." So I didn't like that they pretty much took the spine out of Mark Hamill's character, and just took us in a direction where I didn't think it was um, best for Star Wars fans, but overall, certainly good as movie entertainment. Number five, Baby Driver, directed by Edgar Wright, starring Ansel Elgort and Lily James. What I liked about this film was Jamie Foxx's villain. Oftentimes, the villain is a buffoon, uh, um, and and he's not believable. His danger isn't believable. Jamie Foxx truly had a psychopathic nature in this film, and you did not know at any time whether or not this guy was going to snap. I think it had beautiful directing, incredible pacing, action, and then balance. You had a lot of stars in this film. In addition to Ansel Elgort and Lily James, you had Jamie Foxx and Kevin Spacey, and the director gave each one of them time to shine, if you will, on the screen. Uh, and it brought more to the film. So it was a big surprise how much I enjoyed this film, but a pleasant surprise. And the entire cast fit together like a puzzle. And ever since I saw Lily James in Cinderella, she is just simply adorable. She has that type of presence on the screen where you can see that Ansel Elgort would risk what he risks to be with her. So number five is Baby Driver. Number four, Thor Ragnarok, starring Chris Hemsworth, Kate Blanchett, Tessa Thompson, directed by Taiki Waititi. What I liked most about Thor Ragnarok was it was pure movie entertainment. Very funny, lots of action, great special effects, good acting, and pacing. What I also liked most was Kate Blanchett's Hela. This was a very strong villain, so we could definitely feel that all the characters were in danger because of her power. She was intelligent and a bit sarcastic, and just a very, very well constructed villain. That's been a criticism of a lot of Marvel films, and I definitely think they hit a home run with Kate Blanchett's Hela. And then what I also liked was Tessa Thompson, her chemistry with the entire cast, whether it was her flirting a bit with Goldblum's character or standing up to Thor. Um, she just seemed to have chemistry with whatever character that was on the screen, and then overall the entire cast. And I give Taiki Waititi credit for again having that many stars on the screen and bringing balance where each one gets an opportunity to shine. Now, as far as the character Thor, having grown up reading the comic books, I was not thrilled with comedy Thor, but uh, it's a movie business, and the more serious Thor character was not um, winning at the box office, so they changed up his character some, and I still think that they could have kept a more straight-laced Thor. And then the fact that it had an Avengers type feel by bringing in all of these powerful characters, including the Hulk and Tessa Thompson's character, um, and that they still could have accomplished it. But overall, I left the theater feeling very entertained, and this is definitely a movie you can watch over and over again. Number three, Justice League, directed by Zack Snyder, um, starring Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, and also Gal Gadot. Um, this movie had a bit of tragedies. Zack Snyder directed only portions of the film because of a family tragedy, but um, this was extremely entertaining film. What I liked most about it was first Superman's beatdown of the Justice League. When, when I will never forget walking into Batman vs Superman a few years ago. I was taking a late night class in a city called Jacksonville or Jackson, Michigan, and I remember driving roughly 40 minutes to get back home. At the time, I lived in Hillsdale to catch the 7 o'clock show, a preview show of Batman vs Superman. So I just bent over backwards to go see this film, and I'll never forget when the film ended and the credits were rolling up, and I just sat there staring at the screen of Batman Superman, wondering what the blank did I just see. And after having time to think about it, it was this sissified Superman who gets beat by a mere mortal, where with his super breath, he could just freeze him. With his super speed, he could take any weapon that he has. It was just, it was a joke that they had Batman beating Superman, and then Superman running to his girlfriend for happened to be rescued by her, getting advice from his mother. And that's what sets Wonder Woman apart, is that she is a warrior. And so that's why I enjoy so much seeing Superman being unleashed in this film. Then the addition of Aquaman, Flash, and Cyborg. It was nice to have different superheroes on the screen added to the film. Each one I felt each actor did a good job portraying a character. And then third, what I liked about Justice League, that it was tons of action. And again, I enjoyed Gal Gadot in her role as Wonder Woman, as just being a fearless warrior. So number three is Justice League. Number two, Wonder Woman, directed by Patty Jenkins, starring Gal Gadot and Chris Pine. First and foremost, what I liked about this film was excellent direction by Patty Jenkins, incredible balance, good pacing, and obviously, with many people have already stated the chemistry between the leads, but I like the balance between the leads and the, the shared screen time, but not just the shared screen time, but the balance of respect that they had for one another. Um, and Wonder Woman's character overall, Wonder Woman showed, despite her power, showed respect of her mother, respect of her culture, at the same time defying her mother and her culture, but doing it in a way of respect. And the same with her relationship with Steve, Trevor, or Chris Pine's character, in that she's traveling to a world or a part of the world she's not familiar with, and uh, she depends on Steve for information, but not 100%. She works within the rules, but not 100%, not when it violates her character. So she was able to be respectful, to be feminine, and a warrior all at the same time. And so it was a pleasure to see this character be brought to life. And even when she was in Batman Superman, I just love the fact that she gets a warning from Superman that says, "Hey, this guy's from another world." And she's like, "So." I've fought people from other worlds before. And so I liked her fearlessness, but at the same time, her feminine character, and whether it was showing joy of eating ice cream or seeing a baby, maybe for the first time because she was the only baby on the island she was on. So showing a more rounded character um, and just a great movie experience. I remember watching the film and calling my son and saying, I think, the budget for this was, it certainly wasn't 200 million. I said, I guess maybe 100, 150 million because there was a lack or in the special effects. But even with that, with good pacing, good acting, they managed to have a good battle. Now, I actually don't think it's the best Wonder Woman movie. As much as I like this film, I think the animated film where she fights Ares is the best Wonder Woman film. But this certainly came pretty close to duplicating that. So number two is Wonder Woman. And finally, number one, Coco by Pixar, directed by Lee Unkrich and starring the voice talents of Anthony Gonzalez. When I first saw the trailer for Coco, I said, "Oh, that looks interesting," but I wasn't planning on going to see it. But the more, as more trailers were released, the more I looked at it, it was the voice talent of Anthony Gonzalez and the stunning color of this film that made me say I'm going to give it a try. And then when I did see the film, I just said, well, the entire film is visually stunning. Um, the passion of the character Miguel, who Anthony Gonzalez plays, um, it was just it was a beautiful thing to see when someone absolutely knows who they are and what they want to do, and they have to face a challenge of those people that love them the most, and overcome that, to be driven to overcome that. It's a funny line that a speaker once said. He said, "When our children are young, we tell them you can be anything you want, and then when they get older, we tell them, well, you need to be realistic." And so his family, because Miguel's family had a long standing disdain for music. But music was who he was, what he wanted to do. He knew it and was willing to do anything to accomplish that. And that's an old saying for entrepreneurs, is that you have to be willing to give up everything you have to get everything you want. So to see how he was able to do this and work within the framework he was given, and then the importance of family. Even though he was not complying with what his family wanted him to do, you see how necessary it was for him to have their support. He simply could have run off like he believed his father had done, but he wanted their support. So he worked within the framework of being respectful to his family. And then it just made you, or me, watching this film, um, enjoy seeing this bond that they all had as this large extended family, and setting the photographs out and saying that even though these people have moved on, that it's still important to remember these people by setting their photographs out. And if they're not remembered, then they truly do disappear. So overall, I felt the story of Coco, the acting by Anthony Gonzalez, which will probably go unheralded, but his voice acting, just like the young lady who did the Dwayne the Rock movie. I can't remember now, a Hawaiian film, but she was just amazing. And certainly Disney and Pixar do excellent jobs picking their young actors. But just an overall solid film, a film the entire family can watch, a film that has action, and just for me, the number one film of the year. And it certainly is going to win the Oscar for Best Animated Film. So Coco is number one, and that's it. And I'm Brian Mahoney for Mahoney Movie Magic.